All right, in this final slide, we're going to just add two other pieces to this overall heuristic, and that is what Professor Shepard has called relativism and command theory. So relativism, pure thoroughgoing relativism, would say there is really no metaphysical content at all, or no meaningful content at all, to the concepts of good and evil. They're entirely relative to tradition, culture, and practices, and this means that the differences in morality need to simply be tolerated and adjudicated or adjusted in some way that doesn't refer to an overarching principle of good and evil. Frankly, I'm hesitant about this category. I don't really think very many people are true thoroughgoing relativists. I think if you look at each of the categories that we've mentioned, there are elements of relativism within each of them. Now, maybe it's wrongly said, not relativism as an ism, as an overarching ism, right? But of course, each of these approaches, and any approach we might take, is going to have to recognize that there are differences in time and in culture and in practices, and is going to have to deal with those. Now, it might at some point say that, one expression of difference is less valid than another, or maybe one expression of difference is simply invalid, right? And morally impermissible and ought to be stopped. But somehow it has to account for our actual human embeddedness and situatedness. So I don't know that there are too many really true relativists. I think most people would at some point defend themselves and think they were justified, if they were being physically attacked or something like that. So we do have that branch, though. And on the other side, we have this important category of command theory, and really we might better say divine command theory. And this remains a really important stream of theological ethics. So divine command theory is the notion that good and evil are determined by divine command. Now remember when we talked about voluntarism, nominalism, those really broad, in the first lecture, concepts about who God is, a true thoroughgoing divine command theory would be tied to ideas about voluntarism and nominalism. That is, what is good or evil or right or wrong is good or evil or right or wrong simply because God says so, and not for any other justification. So God could say tomorrow that rape is good, and then it would be good because God says so, right? We wouldn't expect God to say that, but he could, and then it would be good. And we've noted some problems with that kind of really thoroughgoing divine command theory, but nevertheless, again, we don't necessarily need to see all of the boxes as mutually entirely exclusive. Of course, from a Christian theological perspective, a Jewish or Muslim theological perspective, or other kinds of theistic theological perspectives, there's a God who commands, and we are obligated to obey for different reasons, right? So moral obligation traced to God. There's an element, at least, in which the rightness or wrongness of it doesn't depend on what human society thinks about it. And human society can set up its own rules, its own contingent rules, that might deal with unique aspects of society as long as those rules don't conflict with the divine command. Now, as the way Professor Shepard put this out here, I think it's not incorrect, but I do think it's a little bit shy of contemporary versions of divine command theory, and in particular, it's a bit shy of divine command theory as we see it in Karl Barth.